Hi, I'm Patricia with Hobcar Barony, and this morning we are doing one of my favorite activities, and that is air layering camellias. You may ask yourself, what is air layering? Well, air layering is a form of propagation, and it allows you to get an exact replica of the plant. Camellias are what is called not true to seed. That means that when it finishes flowering and it forms its seed and it drops to the ground and the seedling comes up, that does not mean it is going to be the exact plant. It could be anything, literally. So if you find one, such as this Elegans Supreme Variegata, and that is the exact flower you want, then air layering is what you need to do. And so not only does it do that, it also allows you to get a much larger plant. Back, 50 years ago, they were taking cuttings this big or even smaller and starting to grow from that. But what we are going to do this morning is we are going to take this entire branch. And there are a few things that you need. Electrical tape or some type of tape that will withstand the rain. Duct tape, it doesn't hold up as well. You need a nice, sharp, clean knife. Rutone. You can use the powder form, and there's also the liquid form that you can use. So whichever you prefer. Sometimes I have used both. Little paintbrush, and here we have some sphagnum moss. Some people use soil. I find that the sphagnum moss holds together a little easier. It doesn't crumble as much, so it's just a little easier, and that's just my opinion. Play with it. You want to try soil, try soil. I even heard of someone trying Spanish moss. I haven't taken that route yet. So anyway, I'm going to start with the cut. So after you've made your first two incisions of where you want to start your air layer, then you need to go all the way around the whole branch. And just kind of stay inside of those lines. And what you are doing is, see, there are two major vascular pipes of the tree or shrub, and that is the xylem and the phloem. The xylem's taking the stuff up from the bottom, from the roots and going up. That's the nitrogen and stuff. But this, the phloem is where the sugars from the photosynthesis comes down the plant. And when it does that, when it hits your little roadblock here, it has nowhere to go. So it is stuck. And they build in that particular area, and eventually they realize that there's some adventitious buds in here, and it might think that it wants to put out a bud. But instead, it senses your rooting hormone, which is what the rutone is for. And when it senses that, instead of making a bud, it makes a root. Ha-ha! We kind of psych the plant out. All right. There you go. You want to zoom in on that? Some people like to rough it up a little bit. I'm not entirely sure that makes any difference. You need to make sure that all of the phloem and all of the cambium, which is the layer between the xylem and the phloem, just make sure it's nice and clean. Another thing you might want to think about is where you're making it. This is what's going to be standing up and coming out of the ground or your pot. So you don't want to pick a crooked branch, no dog legs or anything like that. Make sure when you plant it, it's going to be nice and upright. Okay. So what I have here is Root Boost, and you can get that pretty much at Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's, any garden center. It doesn't have to say Root Boost, it can be Rootone or the Fertilone. And that's why I had this little paintbrush. Is all I'm going to do is lightly dust where we have made our wound. And that is that. So it's really nice if you have a buddy with you, because there are a few steps. So it's nice when there's somebody there to hand you your saran wrap, because if there's any wind, your saran wrap is going to be all over the place. And then there's your aluminum foil also. But if you don't, an apron comes in handy, because you're going to need your electrical tape, and I also have a knife in there, and aluminum foil. I will pre-cut it and put it in my pockets. That way I'm not looking around for it. And I also like to go ahead and I put my sphagnum moss, which is already nice and wet. The amount that people use, it varies. Some people don't use very much. I like to use a lot. So that's why we have this nice big patty here. And also, just for good measure, sometimes I even sprinkle a little bit more in the middle. It's not going to hurt. So, this we are going to wrap around where we made our wound. Alrighty, are you ready? Around it goes. And you kind of get a little technique for doing this after you've done it a few times, which I've done it a few hundred times probably by now. So it's not so hard. But there we go. It's nice and wet. I'm wrapping it as tightly as I can. And that's another thing that the aluminum foil is good for. See, I've got it on there, but it's not super tight. But that's all right, because this aluminum foil is going to do it for me. All right, and up and around. And I'm going to wrap it once again. Oh, there we are. Just because I didn't have so many hands. But like I said, if you've got a buddy to do it with you, it really does make it super easy. And there we go. Now it depends. It goes sometimes, some people have said from variety to variety. Some root faster than others. I'm not entirely sure that I'm in agreement with that. Sometimes I think it may depend on how much water is available to the plant, how much sunlight the plant is getting, just all sorts of things. And one really good thing about this is it does not hurt the mother plant. There is zero damage done to the plant. This aluminum foil will help keep it on. It could take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. And you can do this on things other than camellias. I have done a saucer magnolia this past year, and it rooted in 3 months. One of them did. The other one has still not completely rooted. It's still knuckled a little. Anyway, there we go. Time of year is another thing that you have to think about. Some people say April is the best time. I have rooted as early as February and was cutting in August, end of August. So plant to plant, give it a go. That is the only part you have to remember. And we will be back in just a couple of months to let you take a look at the knuckle. Alright, so here we have one that has been taking a little longer than normal, but it has started to what is called knuckle. And I still have hope for it. Not sure why. This one is out of about 25. This one little bugger is just taking his sweet little time. Do you see? I'm actually going to wrap some more of the sphagnum moss around it and maybe put a little more rootone, because there are small roots that are forming. So yes, try to resist the temptation of unwrapping every month or two. Leave it on for at least 3 or 4 months before you go to check it. Alright, so here is a finished product. This camellia was cut on December 1st and potted on 2020. It is a blushing bride, and you can see the size of the plant that you get. And I wanted a blushing bride, and I can tell by the blossoms and buds that that's exactly what I got. So that is our lesson on air layering. Hope you enjoyed the segment. Thanks for watching.